Welcome to More Than a Conversation, the podcast where we meet and have discussions with some of the most interesting people and innovative leaders in their fields from all walks of life. We will be discussing everything from politics to theology to religion to philosophy to life. Every once in a while, I may just be on here talking about whatever's in the news and whatever I think will be of interest to you. This is your host, Patrick Connolly, and I hope that today will be more than a conversation for you. Welcome to this special recording. We do these from time to time. We will hop on and do a live recording. And today I am joined with someone who we met a while back, but I recently got a chance to spend a little time with him. And I had a great time talking with him. And so I thought, man, I've got to get this guy on to More Than a Conversation. I wanted to introduce him to all of you and let you just hear his heart, hear his incredible story, hear what he's got going on. And so I am joined today by none other than the prolific hippie missionary himself. I'm joined today by Bryson Grizzle. Bryson, it is so good to have you on More Than a Conversation today. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
Bryson, it is it's great to have you on. I was looking forward to being able to talk with you. Now, you are a product of South Carolina, so I even threw on the South Carolina hat today since I was going to talk to somebody who's the product of South Carolina. But Bryson, first of all, let's jump into this quickly. Man, how old is your baby?
He's 4 months old.
So you have a 4-month-old baby, and you are getting ready to go to what country are you getting ready to move to?
We're moving to Kibera, Kenya in Africa.
So you're moving to Kenya, and moving to Kenya is quite a move for somebody with a 4-month-old child. So tell me, what on earth made you decide I'm going to take my wife and my 4-month-old and I'm going to move to Kenya? Tell me what motivates somebody to do that.
Well, I was called to missions at a really young age, and for me, it wasn't a big deal for me. You know, I've grown up backpacking and hiking and sleeping outside, so I could go live under a bridge and sleep with the trolls. But whenever I felt like God was calling me and my wife together, she was ready for us to go ahead and get married, and I was very, very hesitant. I was really worried that I wouldn't be able to provide for her being a missionary. And God spoke to me, and he said, just as much as I've called you to do this, if I've called you to do this and I've called her to be with you, then I've called her to do it as well. He said, so you can't be worried that I'm not going to take care of your wife during your calling if I've called you together. And that was a hard step, but it was still an easier step than whenever we found out that we were pregnant. And the first question that came up as soon as people started asking is, are y'all still going to Africa? Are y'all still going to Africa? So in the very first post, when we announced that we were pregnant, we said, just to let everybody know, we are still going to Africa. Because if God called us to it, and scripture says that every baby is a gift from God, so obviously God gave us this baby. If God called us to it, then obviously he called our son to do it as well, even at the young age of 4 months old.
And so that's quite a decision to make and to hold to. So I want to go back and go a little bit earlier, I guess, in life. And, you know, something has to happen to birth that concept in somebody that says, I'm not going to change my plans, because everybody's got big plans before kids come along. Everybody's got big plans, and nobody would fault you for deciding, you know what, that was a plan I wanted to do, and maybe one day we'll get there or whatever. Nobody's going to fault you for that. But I want to go back and find out what shaped the young man who decided he wants to stick with such a plan, such an idea. So let's rewind the tape and tell us a little bit about where you came from. So tell me about your upbringing. Did you come up in the church? How early on did you have this idea about missions?
So I've been raised in the church my whole life. My great grandmother actually attended Lee University back when there was still Lee College. So we've been Church of God our entire life, raised at youth camp every single summer. I started going to youth camp whenever I was 5 years old. And I believe it was a summer, whenever I was 10 years old. We were going through camp and went through the service. We got back to our room at night. And the guy that was my counselor, he just broke out his guitar and started playing that night. He started singing praise and worship music. And man, a lot of people don't believe it, but the Holy Spirit fell in a room full of 10 and 11-year olds. And one of my best friends was filled with the Holy Spirit that night. And I was just on the floor, like on my hands and knees, praying and crying out to God. And I just prayed the only prayer that I could pray at that age. I said, God, no matter what you want me to do, no matter where you want me to go, I'll go. And God spoke to me and he said, you'll reach the nations. Now, I wasn't raised in a church that was extremely missions minded. I had actually never even met a missionary at that point. I didn't know what missions was, but I started, you know, getting more and more interested in it. When we were homeschooled, my mom would read us stories of missionaries and stuff like that. So I started learning a little bit more about what missions work was, but I still didn't tell anybody about what my calling was. And I grew up on a small farm out in Gaffney, South Carolina. And I remember going out there, cleaning up after the animals, praying and talking to God. I specifically remember one time when I was 16, I was praying. I said, God, why in the world would you call me to do something like this? I said, I'm nobody. Nobody knows who I am. Nobody knows my name. Like the only reason that I'm known in the Church of God is because I got kicked out of youth camp. No, I'm just useless. I don't expect anything out of me in life, and I don't think a lot of people expect much out of me in life.
So I want to interrupt the story because I want to find out, why'd you get kicked out of U camp?
Well, so I was like that kid at youth camp. I was not like the bad kid, but everyone was going to know who I was. So me and my best friend, we've been best friends since we were like 3 years old. We ran East Tab. Like if you know the bottom dorm that is like nasty and it looks like you're slightly in a jail bed, but we got up out of bed at like 3 o'clock in the morning. And that year it was when smack cam was like a big thing, like where people would be sleeping, you slap them in the face and video it. It's terrible. Like if someone did that to me, I'd be so mad. But we were going and doing that. We had slapped literally every single person down in that dorm room, and we had a buddy that stayed in the other dorm up the hill. So we, along with like seven other guys, sneak out, run all the way up to the other guy's dorm, break into their dorm room, slap our friend in the face, wake him up, laugh. We're headed back, and we just stop in the middle of the road under a street light. We're all just sitting there talking about how hilarious it is and how awesome we are. And I looked over, and here comes Josh Childers, one of the pastors in the state, riding on a golf cart. So I yell, golf cart. We all take off running. I just ate it, like slipped on some pine cones or some acorns or something, ate it right in the creek. My buddy just takes off, leaves me, laughs. And they ended up catching all of us, like all of us except for one guy. And then they were going to get our counselor to tell him what had happened. And when they walked in the dorm room, that guy that got away, he's like, I guess y'all are looking for me. So they caught him too. They sent us all home. Made me call my mom at 3 o'clock in the morning. They were like, you're not waiting until tomorrow. We're not letting you guys get off the hook. You're calling your mom right now, and y'all are going home tonight. So I became, I think that's actually kind of what made me more well known at youth camp is the fact that I got kicked out.
So you got kicked out of youth camp. Nobody thinks that you're going to
Yeah.
go into missions, and I wasn't trying to interrupt the flow there, but I had to get that story out of you. Had to hear that.
Yeah, I understand.
So tell me about that time period in your life where you feel like you've got this calling on you. You're a teenager. So you feel like God has called you to do something. You feel like God has specifically called you to do something. You feel like God has spoken to you in a unique way, and you're at this place though where you're not sure about that calling. Was that a time where you were still actively thinking about it all the time? Tell me about that period in your life. Were you still pursuing that? Where were you?
So no matter what I did in life, no matter what decisions or thoughts I had, I still felt like God was calling. I knew that God was calling me to missions. Every time I would try to make a decision, God would speak to me again and just, you will reach the nations. You will reach the nations. No matter what I thought or what direction I tried to go. And my parents would come to me, they'd ask, what are you going to do with your life? And I'd be like, I'm just going to be a bum. Like, I want to be a hiking guide or a whitewater rafting guide, just travel around, have fun, work at ski resorts and beaches, being a lifeguard, just whatever. Like, my plan was literally to be a bum. But I still knew, like, God is calling me to do this. God is calling me to do missions. But I just didn't know anyone to talk to help me get involved. And I still hadn't admitted to anybody that that's what I was called to do. So I graduated high school and we went to, well, I was getting ready to graduate, but right before we did, we went on a winter retreat to Winterfest. And a sermon was preached by Sammy Rodriguez about knocking down the idols in your life. And whenever he preached that sermon, man, the Holy Spirit hit me, and I just knew, no matter what I do, I have to do what God's called me to do. And I came home, told everybody what I was called to do. Everyone was super on board, crazy, crazy supportive. Like, I come from a phenomenal home church at North Spartanburg. I mean, everybody was behind me, but they didn't know what direction to point me. So I started looking online, man. I just Googled mission trips. And I was like, I found YWAM with the Baptist church. And I was like, I'll just go on a year-long mission trip with YWAM, and that will be my start in missions. And God took me in a different direction. But, man, I really feel like if he didn't, I'd have just took off and I'd have probably never came back. I'd probably be on the mission field already. But I'm glad that he's taken me the direction that he has, because I know that God's got something specific for us and Church of God World Missions.
You talked about graduating high school, going out to this event. Now I want to go back and talk about school. You said you were homeschooled. Are you an only child, or you got brothers and sisters? Tell me about that.
Oh, yeah, so there's actually five of us. I have two brothers. I'm the second oldest, and then we have two little sisters. So we were all homeschooled all the way through. I went to first grade in public school. My older brother went to sixth grade, and the rest of them have been homeschooled the entire time. So big family, homeschooled on a farm. We were that family that comes into church and you're worried we're using essential oils for deodorant. But we know we're pretty normal. We're pretty normal for homeschool kids.
Pretty normal for homeschool kids. That's funny. So
We're quirky.
So you were down in Gaffney, you said, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Gotcha. So now, what kind of farm was it that you grew up on?
Honestly, man, it was a dog farm. So my family raises Labradors. But we've had horses, we've had pig, we've had chickens, goats. We've had a little bit of everything, but our main focus was our Labradors. We have a very good bloodline with Stony Creek Labradors. So if you're looking for a puppy,
yeah.
Shameless plug right there.
There you go. Stony Creek Labradors, right? So drop that in the comments and make sure folks get over there and check. So you grow up, you're homeschooled. Now, what was do you know what your parents' decision making was to decide to homeschool you guys?
We moved around a lot growing up, not for any particular reason. I think my dad just got a little bit of gypsy blood in him, but we moved around a whole lot. And we were like between schools, I think, when we moved. And then my older brother got in like nothing. I think he got in like a food fight at school or something like that. And so my mom just made the decision to pull us out and homeschool us for the rest of the year. And we just never went back to public school.
And so how do you think that being homeschooled, do you feel like it changed your worldview at all? Like, what do you think was the benefit of that, if there was any?
For sure. So growing up, we always had the option to go back to school if we wanted it. I think our parents would have strongly discouraged us going back to public school because my mom is very protective of us. So I think they would discourage it, but we wanted to play sports and things like that. And I think being out of public school at that time, it was hard for homeschool kids to get involved in sports. So that was definitely an effect, but I think it also gave me my love for church because I connected with people at church. I connected with people at youth camp. So literally, by the time youth camp rolled around, I've went an entire year with just hanging out with my church friends, and I'm just ready to meet new people. So anybody and everybody that came up, I'm like, we're best friends now. You're gonna. So we were probably a little bit weird. I'm sure people were like, man, this guy thinks that he's my best friend, and I just met him. But I had all this, just I love people. I've always loved people. So I think that being homeschooled did give me a stronger love for people and a stronger love for church. And honestly, a stronger aspect of like how to study because I was really nervous when I decided to go to college, how I would do in a classroom setting. I had never really experienced it. And I was really, really nervous, but I got there, man. And I hope none of my buddies from college are watching this, but I just knew how to study better than a lot of people that I went to college with. I mean, I graduated as valedictorian, got 2 bachelor's degrees in 4 years, and not pat myself on the back, but I know that it was from learning how to teach myself through homeschooling that gave me the ability to be able to excel in college.
So, what do you think that is specifically the key to learning? What was it? Just being able to study? Was it just being able to read and comprehend? What do you think made it better?
Oh man, so reading and comprehension was definitely not something that was my strong suit. I actually hated reading until I got to college. I think the only book I read was like the Hardy Boys the whole time before I graduated. I would negotiate with my mom. I'd be like, if I watch Troy, can I just not read the Iliad? Because it's kind of the same thing. And I would negotiate, man. I hated it, but I think just knowing, because my mom wasn't very strict on our schedule. Like we had to get all of our work done, but that was it. So it's like I knew by the end of the week I've got to have 5 math lessons done, 5 science lessons done, 5 history lessons done, and having to hold myself accountable that at the end of the week, if this work isn't done, I don't get a weekend. I think that's what held me in college because a lot of kids in public school that I went to college with, they'd get to the weekend and they'd just be like, I got a paper due tomorrow and it's 15 pages long. And I'm like, man, I've been working on it. I got in trouble in college for turning in my work too early because growing up, I would do sometimes I do all my work on Monday and just take the rest of the week off. So in college, they give us our syllabus at the beginning of the semester, and I'd start turning papers in like week one. And one of my professors, he was like, dude, you got to stop doing this. I'm not ready to grade your papers yet. So just hold on to it until middle of the semester. But I think just knowing how to manage time and being able to hold myself accountable in my studies was what helped me excel.
So, you go to college and you went. Where'd you go to school?
Holmes Bible College.
So you went to Holmes, which is in South Carolina.
Mhm. Yes, sir.
And tell me about that experience. How did you enjoy Holmes?
So I did not want to go to Holmes. I didn't want to go to college. Like I said, even though I was saved and I was after my calling, I still wanted to be a bum. And not that if you got to go to college not to be a bum, but I wanted to just still be like, a hippie and travel around and tell people about Jesus and just love on everybody. But I get to Holmes, man, and it was so outside of anything that I had ever experienced before. So like all the guys first day are wearing like bow ties and full blown suits, got haircuts all, they look like they're 40 years old and they're literally like 19. And then here I am, a 17-year-old kid in cargo shorts and a backwards hat and a pair of Vans. Like, where in the world did I just roll up?
So it's safe
I
to
went through a
say
little bit
you
of
didn't just
trouble.
fit in, huh? Right off the bat, you didn't quite fit
No,
in.
no, not even close. Yeah, not even close. Um, I went through a little bit of trouble at first. I battled with the staff a little bit. They wanted me to cut my hair, and I was uh, not to go into a crazy amount of detail, but I was healed of cancer whenever I was 14 years old. So my hair was like part of my testimony because the first question I asked when I was diagnosed was, "Am I going to lose my hair?" And I think that they had a hard time understanding me because I looked rebellious. And it's till this day, I think that some people might look at me and right off the bat think that I'm rebellious because I'm heavily tattooed. I don't dress a certain way. And not that I'm trying to look a part of anything or like look a different way or be rebellious. I appreciate the church. I appreciate our traditions, but I'm just going to be me regardless. And that's just who I am. So they wanted me to cut my hair. And after about a month of debate, I went in and I had a strong conversation with the president and the dean of students. And whenever it was all said and done, they asked me to be the leader of the men's group on campus. So I think we
There you
handled it
go.
well.
And you got to keep the hair, right? That's
Oh
the
yeah,
other
yeah, for
side.
sure. The hair wasn't going anywhere. I would have went to Lee. I was like, I'll go to Lee. I don't care.
So, so I want to ask you, man. You said something. You said not to go into a lot of detail, and then you dropped the fact that you had been healed of cancer. Now that stands out to me for a few reasons. Number one, that's like I was healed of cancer is not something that you don't go into detail on. I mean, that's especially on a podcast with a pastor. So I feel like we need to go back and talk
Yeah.
about that a little bit. And then my daughter
Okay.
actually
All
had
right.
cancer, and so that's something that's close to me. Tell me that story. I don't want to just skip over that. You said you were healed of cancer. Tell me the cancer story.
Yes, sir. Well, we were actually in the middle of a move, like always, and we were driving down the road. I can take you to the exact spot where we were. And my mom looked over. I was riding in the front seat, and she said, "What is that knot on your neck?" She reached out, like touched it, and she's like, "What is that?" I said, "I don't know. It's a knot." She said, "Well, how long has it been there?" I said, "It's been a while. I don't know, maybe a month, maybe a year. It's been there for a while." She's like, well, whenever knots pop up on you, Bryson, you need to let us know. And I was like, I'm a 14-year-old kid. I got knots all the time. I'm not going to tell you about everything my body's doing. I'm not just going to tell you about all this stuff. That's weird.
Oh, that's funny.
But so she scheduled me a doctor's appointment, and they didn't seem concerned at all at first. It's a teenage boy, it's a knot, no big deal. They gave me these big pills to take, and they're like, come back in 2 weeks. Took the pills, man. I came back, and the knot had tripled in size, and it was taking on abnormal growth. They took me right over to do an ultrasound. They realized that it was solid, it wasn't fluid filled, and I could tell like every single doctor's appointment, every single test they ran was like bad result after bad result after bad result, and I still
And so
wasn't
how
really
old are you again?
afraid.
You're
Like I was
14.
14, yes, sir.
You're 14 years old. So 14-year-old you have a knot. You go to the doctor. They give you some pills. It triples. Probably shouldn't have took the pills. No, I don't think that was the problem, but it triples.
For real, man.
And so when it triples and now you're dealing with this, I want to know like what's in your head at 14. Not necessarily because I know you're giving me the facts, but I want to go back. Like, what are you thinking about at 14? Do you have any, or do you think you're dying? What do you think's going on?
Yeah, man. So like 100, like I get what you're saying, and like I remember like the whole situation like really vividly. I had people like calling me and texting me, and like crying, and man, and the whole time like I'm just not worried. And I remember one day like my dad came in and talked to me, and he was like, where's your head at? And I was like, I know God's got it. And I wasn't like some like super spiritual kid or like preaching or anything like that. I was the kid that talked in Sunday school and got moved away from my friends. But I was just like, God's got it. God's got it the whole time. And I remember my dad, we were sitting on the couch and he's like, it could be cancer. And this is before like I've got diagnosed. And I was like, yeah, I know it can be. And I think that was like the first moment that it was real to me. Because you just always think, oh, it's never going to be me. It's never going to be my family. It's never going to be one of my siblings. And for sure, it's never going to be me. And I think in that moment, it was a realization like this could be really, really bad. But in my head, I was like, God called me 4 years ago to do missions work, and I haven't done missions work yet. So either I'm going to be the bald, skinny guy doing missions work, and like for the last year of my life, or God's not going to take me out. And I had this crazy peace through the whole thing that, like dying was never even a thought. Honestly, going to surgery was never even a thought. They decided to remove the tumor, and that's when they diagnosed me. And I was just like, God's got it. Like, I know that I'm not going to die from this because I have a calling on my life that I haven't done yet. And it's not like I've been running from my calling. I was just a kid. There's no way I could have done missions up to that point. So I knew, man, like I'm not getting taken out. And that might be bad theology, but in my 14-year-old mind, it worked. And that's what God helped me get through it with. And then it took like 2 weeks, I think, and the doctor called and they're like, we can't explain it, but we've sent your tumor off to 3 pathologists. They've all said, we're looking at this. We know it's cancer, but we can't find a single cancer cell. We have no idea what to tell you, but enjoy your life.
Wow.
And just sent me on my way. Haven't
That's
talked
amazing.
to him since.
Haven't been back to see that guy again. Certainly not going to take any pills he gives you. Yeah, that is
Yeah, man,
that is
definitely
incredible.
not, man. Yeah, man. But I'll never forget, man. There's a lady in our church named Sister Bobby, and she prayed for me on the front steps of our church one day. The Holy Spirit hit her, man. She started speaking in tongues while she laid her hand on my neck, and man, I have no doubt in my mind that day she spoke death into death. She took it away from me, like no doubt that was the moment that I was healed.
Wow, and so in that moment, a person laying hands on you, praying, you saying, this is the moment that I was healed. I guess we will tell all the cessationists to come check that story out. That's incredible.
Bring them on.
Bring them on, right? It's hard to beat an experience. So I want to go back and talk about something else too. You said, you mentioned you're at homes and you said, I looked rebellious. What does rebellious look like?
Man, that's just what they kept telling me. Like they kept asking, like, "Are you just rebellious? Are you just rebellious?" And it offended me. But I think if you're gonna walk in the way that I try to walk, you can't be offended easily. I had a guy come into our church the other day, and he was asking for money, and so we discussed some avenues that we had to get him some help, and he was like, "Are you a preacher?" And I was like, yes, sir, I'm on the pastoral staff here. He said, well, you sure don't look like one. And I'm like, man, you're here asking me for money. And you're going to be like, well, you don't look like a pastor. I was like, so, it's funny. Like, it's really funny. I was helping out with a project recently, giving out food to homeless people. And I went up to the guy, asked if we were taking up like literally thousands of boxes of food. And I went up to the guy running it. I was like, hey, I just need one box for these people over here. And he thought that I was asking for it for me. And he thought I was a homeless person coming up and he was like kind of rude with me. And I was like, man, like kind of offended. But like I said, if you're gonna walk not trying to look like just this cookie cutter. And not that there's anything wrong with people that wear suits. I love my suits. I have suits tailored just to fit me. They look awesome. But that's just not who I am. And the situation that is needed, I'm gonna do it. But I think going into the school, they see this kid that isn't showing up on the first day with a Church of God haircut and a suit. And I'm always been like, yes sir, no sir, very respectful, but I just didn't dress the part. I didn't look the part. But I mean, I'm the first kid to class every day. I'm never late for class. I'm the first guy to show up to our work study. My room stayed clean. Now, some of these guys, they'd show up to class wearing a suit, but their suit would be wrinkled, their hair would be a mess, and their bow tie would be upside down. And I'm like, man, how are you mad at me? Because my hair is long and everything, but it's fixed. I'm wearing clean, ironed clothes. And then this guy over here, how do you think he looks better than I do? I mean, it was something that I had a hard time understanding, but that's just the way it was, man. And I think that I really do. I think that I went through that season to understand, like, you got to have thick skin if you're going to be who you are, because sometimes just refusing to conform to certain things rubs people the wrong way. And it's not that I'm not going to conform because I want to be rebellious. It's just I'm not going to change who I am to meet your needs in a sense. I'm not going to be who you need me to be. I'm going to be who God needs me to be, and He created me just like this. So why would I change that?
Now, it's interesting that you say that, and I want to dig into that a little bit. I feel like the church for a long time has had a concept of what it is that a believer looks like, what it is. You and I probably have a lot of similarities in that coming up around the church and knowing kind of what was expected, knowing how you're supposed to look, how you're supposed to dress, how you're supposed to sound, all of those things. Yet at the same time, I wonder sometimes if our focus hasn't been upon maybe trying to fit things into a mold that was not the important mold, while at the same time we have people that fit the mold of how to look, how to navigate the system, but don't have actual orthodoxy in their faith. Their actual doctrine is skewed. They actually don't believe the truths of the scripture. And so I think what I'm seeing is there's a generation coming up that is, it's obviously you can't just stereotype the whole generation, but there is a generation that includes some people that don't look the part of what the history of the church was, that maybe don't like they don't have a comb over, or and they don't have maybe they're not wearing a suit all the time, and maybe that's something different. But at the same time, I believe there are people that still want to hold true to the ancient truths that we have, the truths that are older than our fashion, because at the end of the day, what we call the church look is really, it's not that old. A lot of people say my old time religion. The problem is it's not that old. It's like from, the last 100 years. That's not old. Old time religion is 1900 years old, not, 90 years old. But in that conversation, what do you think? So you're what, 25, 26? Is that right?
24.
24. Look, I'm making you older. So tell me, in your generation, is there still a hunger for biblical sound truth in the way you live your life, not in the way you comb your hair, not in the way that whether or not you wear a hat inside a building, or not any of those things, but in actual biblical orthodoxy? When you look around and you see your age range, other ministers your age, young people your age, is there still a desire for the truths of Scripture as far as making decisions about things like gender and sexuality, making decisions about the way you walk out your life in finances, making decisions about family, things like that? Are we seeing a departure in that as well? Or do you believe there's a generation that says, hey, we might not look like the last, but we still hold the old truths? What's your take on that?
So I want to be really careful and make sure that I don't come off like against the last generation, because I'm not. I mean, most of my friends are like at least 10 years older than me. And I respect the way that they walked, but this younger generation that's coming up, I think I'm kind of like on the older end of what I classify as this generation. They want something real. And some of the fakest people that you will ever see in your life, some of the most corrupt people that you will ever see in your life, wear a three-piece suit every single day. Just because you wear a suit doesn't make you, someone that needs to be trusted. Just because you wear a suit doesn't make you look professional. I mean, some of the, like I said, the shadiest and most corrupt stuff has been done by people wearing suits. And I think that we're seeing young people that want to be them. They don't want something fake. They don't want to be told to look a certain way or do things a certain way. They want to be able to have genuine relationships with Jesus Christ, with their pastors, with mentors in the church. Man, like right now I'm seeing where kids my age, or I mean, I say kids in like our youth, they're not reading stuff by modern people. Right now, I'm reading Why Revival Tarries by Leonard Ravenhill. Leonard Ravenhill is one of my favorite preachers to ever live. And I've got friends from college that are, my age, younger than me, maybe a little bit older. And these are the kinds of things that we're reading. I've got a buddy who's studying like the works of Calvin and Martin Luther. Like that's what he's studying. So it's not that people are wanting to get away from the gospel. It's that people are wanting to get away from this churchy mindset that you have to look a certain way, you have to do things a certain way to make it work. I mean, just in the book that I'm reading, Why Revival Tarries, he said, a sermon that is prepared in the mind reaches the mind. A sermon that is prepared in the heart reaches the heart. I think that right now, what you're seeing is an exit of where preaching a pretty sermon is no longer good enough for these kids. Because let's be honest, I'm not the greatest preacher in the world, but I can get up there and I can preach a good message and make you want to shout. I can get up there and I can preach a message to make you feel like you got your toes stepped on. But if you get up there as a pastor or just a minister and you have a heart to heart with these young people and let them know, I've been where you're at, I've seen what you're going through, and we can walk this out. It's okay that you might not do prayer a certain way. My prayer is through a journal. I've got a prayer journal, and every day I sit down and I handwrite my prayers. I call them letters to God. Now, that might not look correct. Some people might have a problem with that, but it's the real way that I communicate with God. And so I think that what we're seeing in this generation is we just want to see something real. And how can we see people as real if we're not letting them be who they are? We've got so many dogmatic beliefs. And it's just like the Pharisees. Jesus went through the exact same thing that we're going through. We've got this mindset of what church should look like, these rules that you should follow. And honestly, what it's doing is it's making people live their relationship with Christ in a way that they're no longer in love with Jesus. They're just afraid to go to hell. That's the way the gospel has been preached for the last 50 years. It's in a way to make us so afraid of hell that we think the reward isn't spending eternity with Jesus. It's not going to hell. I just preached a Wednesday night. I said, we've resulted into following rules and regulations, seeking a reward rather than falling in love with Jesus. That's the problem, man. We're no longer taught to just fall in love with Jesus. If you fall in love with Jesus, you can't go to hell. You can't. You literally cannot if you genuinely fall in love with Jesus. But we've been taught to follow these rules instead of chase after a relationship. That's why I think we've seen such a big falling away of youth in the church.
And so what does real look like? Like if for the person that's sitting there and saying, okay, I'm listening to this guy who is looks different, who is called and maybe doesn't fit the mold. And so I want to hear what he has to say. And I think people I do think there can be a misconception that sometimes older people don't want to hear, older ministers don't want to hear. And I don't believe that's the case. I think they do want to hear from the younger generation.
Yes,
sometimes they just don't know how to ask. And so maybe somebody ends up listening to this and maybe watching it while we're recording it. Most people end up listening. But if that happens and they go, I really want to hear what he has to say, what does real look like? How does the person who says, okay, real me is a suit, maybe it's a pastor says real me is, what I am, but what does authenticity look like to this generation? How do we make ourselves open to them in a way that is winsome, that draws them to Christ? What do you say?
I think to be real, you have to be willing to accept other people's real. Like, I can sit in a meeting. I have sat in meetings with preachers with placards all over the wall of their achievements in three-piece suits, and I respect them for that. I appreciate that. In fact, I prefer the person preaching to me to be wearing a suit. I like that. It's not that I have a problem with the suit. It's not that I have a problem with the older generation. Where the issue is oftentimes, not everybody, but oftentimes there's a lot of ministers and people in the older generation that have an issue with this generation's real not looking like they're real. We live in a time where we think that if we don't agree on everything, then we're enemies. Look at the pandemic right now. People have gotten in fights over a shot. They have lost relationships over if you should get a shot or not. And not to make this political at all, but we think just because they did something that I'm not willing to do, then it's wrong. But I mean, man, like I said, I'm heavily tattooed. My arms are tattooed up, and people have literally told me, like, you will not preach in my church because that's not the way that I do things.
Hey, More Than a Conversation listeners, I hope that you are enjoying this conversation as much as I am, and I hope that you're getting something great out of it today. I'm just wanting to jump in here in the middle to take a moment and let you know a few ways that you can help out More Than a Conversation. First, wherever you're listening, please go ahead and click that subscribe button. That will definitely help, and that'll make sure that you get all the content. Also, if you have a way to rate, if your app allows you to give a 4-star, 5-star, whatever the rating is that's the top rating, I would so appreciate if you would go ahead and drop a rating there. That's how the aggregators and the distributors rank podcasts, and the higher the ranking you give, the more ears will be able to hear these great conversations. Thanks again, and I'm hoping that today has been more than a conversation for you. Now let's get back to it.
That's fine. I don't need to preach in your church. If you think it's your church in the first place and that my ministry is not part of God's ministry, that's fine. That's something that you're going to have to answer for. But you can't say, I'm real. This is who I am, but I don't accept who you are. Whenever we've got people walking into churches with tattoos, or when we've got people walking into churches, wearing three-piece suits, when we've got people walking into churches that just look a little bit different than us, we've got to be willing to accept them for who they are. Because I can tell you right now, there's people that I cannot reach. I can't walk into a room full of CEOs and doctors and be taken seriously dressed like this. I just simply can't do that. But I can also tell you that there's youth out there that are hungry for the gospel. But whenever someone walks in a three-piece suit, the feeling they get is this person doesn't care anything about who I am. They just want me to follow a certain rules, change who I am to be more like them. And the reason they feel like that is because they've been told, you've got to look like this. You've got to follow these rules. It's because, I'm not trying to hate on the last generation, but a lot of people in the last generation have a hard time accepting things that are different than what they believe. I mean, if you look at it, a lot of people don't even have friends from other denominations in the church. A lot of people, if you do work with another church within your denomination, they've got a problem with it. We have such a hard time accepting people for who they are. We've gotten this mindset that if we don't agree 100% on everything, then we're not on the same team.
Why do you think it is that we have this struggle with other denominations, other ministries? What do you think brings that about? Why is it that it's an issue for me to work with another ministry, another church? Why is that a problem?
Honestly, I think it's because we have a hard time appreciating other people's successes. We've got this misconception that there's only a certain amount of lost souls out there for us to win. And there's 3.2 billion people who've never heard the gospel yet. And we're worried that the church down the road might get a person that might have come to our church and give $10 a week in the offering plate. Another number for us to check off on our report when we send it in at the end of the month. If we truly get kingdom minded, saved souls are saved souls. It doesn't matter where they sit in the pew. But we've got, like I said, man, we've gotten this mindset that there's only a certain amount of souls that we can win, and the numbers fastly dwindling. The number of unreached people groups is growing every single day, and we're worried where certain people go because we're worried that if Pastor Patrick does really well, then that must mean that I'm not going to do well. Man, it's so far from what the Bible. I mean, what the Bible intended us to do. I mean, look at the disciples; they were arguing over who was the greatest. We see that, and Jesus rebuked them for it, and we're still doing it today.
Yeah, and so the disciples arguing over these positions, I think that's probably a good understanding of where we are, because a lot of times I think you're right. I think we do get wrapped up in the competition of it. We get wrapped up in what's in it for me. Where do I fit into this? What can I gain from this? And when we get wrapped in that mindset, I think it becomes almost impossible for us not just to celebrate other people's successes, but ultimately to be successful. Because you can't really gain ground in that mindset. And that being said, that's not something that just exists in ministry. I think it exists in life in general. If the person beside you gets a new car, that doesn't mean like there's no more new cars. It doesn't mean
exactly.
If they get a raise, it doesn't mean there's no more money, there's no more raises, there's no more this. But we have this mindset of, rather than celebrating each other, rather than promoting each other, even in things like doing a ministry. There's people, if you're going to start a ministry, I can't support that. Or if you're going to start, I'll tell people all the time, hey, start a podcast, go do it. I mean, why would I tell you not to? There's billions of people on the face of the earth. Chances are the majority of them aren't going to listen to either one of us. So let's, go for it, but I think sometimes that mindset gets us, so we get wrapped up in that, and we're so worried about what somebody else has done and so bitter over that we can't achieve anything on our own. We can't accomplish anything because we are wrapped up in a mindset of competition, as opposed to saying, what can I learn from them? How can a collaboration with them help me? How can I just go about having a positive attitude in my own life and gaining some things there by it? So I want to go back to that again, though, quickly. Let's throw out the idea of the way that folks dress and the way they approach each other. If you had to tell somebody what the key to authenticity is, because you're a person who seems to be you have a reputation anyway of being authentic and being true to yourself and trying to do that. And that's hard to do. Honestly, that's hard to do at your age, because you're figuring so many things out. And, I'm not gonna get on here and give you the old man talk, but like, you're just, there's so many things you're trying to figure out, but you have tried to do that. And I agree. I think that your generation is looking for authenticity. When I was in education, I did a poll, and when I polled high school students, it was all high school students at a Christian school that I was the principal of. And when I polled those high school students, the number one thing they said they were looking for was authenticity. In fact, one of the things that they said, and it was in one of the open responses rather than just writing a response, one of them said, like, dress your age, talking to pastors. They're like, just be who you are. Don't try to be like us. And then they said, how can we expect,
you gotta go.
Yeah. They said, how can we expect you to be, this person we can trust if we can't trust that you are even being real in that? And then they went on further and said, and this quote has always stuck with me. They said, we don't need somebody to be like us. We need somebody to be like Jesus. And, that really stood out. But at the same time, if we're just wrapped up in fashion, obviously being like Jesus is a robe. So outside of fashion, outside of trying to find a way to fit in like that, outside of, I'm going to pick up some kids and take them to church. Let me make sure I'm playing Lecrae, right? Like outside of that, how can someone work on being authentic?
That's a good question. That's actually something I've never been asked before. I think that the key to being real and being authentic is understanding who you are. Because if you don't know who you are, then how are you ever gonna, be that to its fullest? I think that me and you discussed this a little bit. I think that one reason, and I feel like I'm like, I don't know, this like patting myself on the back or something. I don't want to sound arrogant at all when I say this, but I think the reason that I've been able to build a reputation of being authentic is because I know exactly who I am, and I'm okay with that. Like I'm okay that I'm not the tallest guy in the room. I'm okay that I'm not the strongest guy in the room. I know that I like wearing skinny jeans and Vans and like that are funky colored. I know that whenever I go backpacking, half the reason that I go backpacking is because I like to take cool pictures when I'm out there. I know that these glasses aren't even real. They're blue light glasses, and I wear them because I think they look cool. So people would try to call me out. Sunday, I wore like this long wool coat. It was like, man, it looks sharp. It was so nice. But I wore it, and everybody was hating on me. Like, that was my age. I mean, what are you trying to do? Like, get out of here. You live in Spartanburg, South Carolina. And I'm like, you know what? It's okay. One of my buddies said, you're trying too hard. I said, man, if I was trying hard, then I would not wear it because y'all are all giving me such a hard time. But I like it, and I'm okay with that. So I think just understanding like God gave me the awesome gift of doing. Like I understood from a young age that I'm not just called to do missions. Like I am a missionary. Everything in my being goes towards being a missionary. I know without a doubt that my clothing style, people are going to say I'm a hipster. So I will take that to its fullest and I will run with it. I know that people think that I'm this super adventurous guy, and I like to be. I love to travel. I love to be outside. So my Instagram is full of me hiking and backpacking and being outside. Everything that I genuinely like, everything that I'm real about, I try to take it to the very next level just so that I know like this is who I am and everybody knows this is who I am. There's not a hobby that I have that everybody doesn't know that I'm involved in because whenever I realize that I like something, I'm not like, okay, do I like it? Do I not like it? And I think a lot of times people get in that mindset where they don't know if they really like something because of the way social media is. Like, I'm fully convinced nobody likes going to concerts. I really don't think that. You pay $100 to go sit in the back of a stinky stadium, listen to music that sounds worse than it does on the radio, film it the whole time, see into your iPhone, and just so you can post it online. Nobody likes that. I don't care who you are. Nobody likes going to concerts, but we go so that we can say, we did it. So because you're supposed to like it. I don't like ice cream. Everybody says you're supposed to like it. They say I'm a liar. I'm just trying to be this health freak. No, I just don't like it. So I'm going to tell you I don't like it. And I think, that's, and I'm being funny now, but I think that's the way that it's gotten. Like we no longer know like what we genuinely like because we try to put up this front on social media of what we do and don't like. I mean, like I got buddies who his favorite TV shows are chick flicks. And he's just real about it. He's like, man, I just like girl movies. And I'm like, that's okay, man. That's who you are. But we live in this society where like you can't like certain things anymore because you might offend somebody. You can't dislike certain things because, your brother or sister over here, they might love it. And we've, like I said, man, so many people, we've gotten the mindset so strongly that if we disagree, we're enemies. So I think living in that mindset has made us where we're hesitant to be open with what we genuinely do like. And when we can't express who we are, then we lose sight of who we really are. Like if you don't know who you are, then how are you ever going to be real with anybody else? It's like youth pastors, like you said, man. So many youth pastors are dressing like dorks, man. They weigh 300 pounds. They're wearing pants skinnier than mine, funky shoes. It's not that they like that. They don't know. And there ain't a man on earth that weighs 300 pounds that likes his pants that tight, but he thinks that the youth do like it, so he does it. It's
Nobody
not that he
likes it,
likes it.
bro.
It's not that
No, nobody likes it.
yeah, nobody likes it, man. Nobody like. There's a lot of guys they don't like rap music, but like you said, they would go pick up the kids so they listen to it because they think that's what they should like, so they can relate with them.
Yeah,
Kids see
yeah.
through that, man.
That's funny that you say that. I'm actually convinced that nobody likes LaCroix. I think no one likes it at all. At all. It tastes like garbage. It's the worst thing ever. It literally tastes like liquid air freshener, and people are out here drinking it for the purpose
man.
And the only goal, the reason I'm firmly convinced that somebody out there was like, this tastes terrible, but I've already invested the $6 for 4 cans. So let me just act like I like it. And they're like, it's like kids smoking and they're inside, they're dying. They're like, oh, this is great. Yeah. That's speaking
Awesome. It feels good.
speaking of your buddies, you were talking about one of your friends. I don't know if this is the same one that likes the chick flicks, but Travis Watley just said, how did we get Brandon Lake on the show? He just asked that in the comments. So.
Travis, tell him that. Never mind. I was going to say something I shouldn't say. I love you, Travis. That's a good dude. He's got an awesome ministry. Church Mints, another shameless plug, y'all.
There you go.
Awesome.
There
guy.
you go. Yeah, we got to talk with Travis. That's got to happen. I got to get that together. And so,
he's always on social media, so it shouldn't be a problem. The man's on every Facebook post I've ever seen. So.
He does not. He wants it. He's putting it in all caps. I do not like chick flicks. He's got it like it's. He wants the world to know that. So
I won't tell anybody, Travis.
Hey, man.
Well, once you're done next time I come visit you.
There you go. There you go. That's it. It's yeah. Well, we will move on. Let's move on. This whole section, I'm just going to cut it from the audio so it's not out there. Because I get way more traffic on the audio side than on this, so we'll do that. Actually, or we could just say that Travis Watley guy, he really likes the chick flicks. So there you go.
Yeah, just leave it at that. Leave it at that.
There it is. Anyway, yeah. So, wow. Yeah, I think though, getting back to the idea of being real, I think you're really touching on something that, we've said a lot of funny stuff like about things that aren't real or whatever, but I think ultimately what we're all trying to achieve is real integrity, and integrity is really what is, integrity is when what you are matches with what you project. Are you fully integrated? Is the man that you are saying you are who you actually are? And the problem with being integrated or not being integrated is one of two things happens. You either hate who you actually are, or you hate the person that you're trying to be. And so I think that's what a lot of us need to do is figure out what's not matching up. Who is it that I actually want to be? Is it the person that's inside? And when it comes to something silly like, chick flicks or hair or whatever, then be the person. Be the person. But when it comes to things where you on the inside are not matching up with the projected morality that you're putting out there, or the projected, being a good person when your motives are actually twisted and dark or whatever, at that point, you do have to make a decision about how do I integrate? And I think that's something I'm trying to work on. That's something, because I recognize there's areas in my life that are not integrated with who I want to be, that are not integrated with who I wish I was. And so how do I integrate all those things? Well, I think the only way is by becoming a true replica of Christ, becoming like him, not just in what I project, but in who I actually am. And that might be the most difficult task that a man faces, is integrating the reality of who he is. James talks about looking within yourself. By the way, anybody that hasn't seen it, you need to go watch that C.S. Lewis. Have you seen the C.S. Lewis, the most reluctant convert or whatever? Have you seen that movie?
No, I've heard about it. Everybody keeps telling me I need to watch it. I love C.S. Lewis, but
it's great. It's great. Like all the words are basically stuff he wrote. You need to check it out. I just watched it today, but you can't watch it. You can't stream it on Fire Stick or anything like that. You have to get it on your laptop, and then you have to go to their website and get it. And then you've got to, I had to plug the HDMI into my laptop or whatever. So that was a little whack, but it's okay. Let's see. Daniel Allen just said, I must have run out of good guests. And then Watley said,
oh my goodness. Daniel Allen. He's one. Let's talk about dress code now. We're going to talk about Daniel Allen. We're going to talk about dress code.
I don't know if he's still
got more shoes than Barbie.
Oh man, this is gonna be.
Oh man, he's about to make me pull up his Instagram and start showing stuff. I will
look. This is. I don't even know if he's still on the stream, but if he is, this is devolving. I'm now. More than a conversation has now ventured into South Carolina Church of God youth camp beef. So now we're getting in trouble.
Yeah, man. You see, man, people they hate on me, man, because they think that I'm different than they are. I do things different. It's just because I'm better looking. We all know that.
Good gracious. How did this happen? Anyway, yeah. Oh, that's funny. Watley said bottom of the barrel. Oh boy.
Ah, man, I just plugged it. You know, his ministry is fake. Don't get his ministry is fake. He's just trying to sell stickers. He pockets the profit.
Oh gosh.
Man, you're gonna regret asking me to come on here, man. I'm the most hated guy in South Carolina.
No, it's entertaining. It's entertaining. Hey, you got to have a little bit of this in the middle of the podcast. Now, what's funny is all my serious, like the serious listeners are going to be like, the ones that come to listen to like Hugh Ross and Jay Warner Wallace and stuff. They're going to be like, what's going on over there? What's happening? So anyway, it's
everybody
like
everybody hates Bryson.
Yeah, Bryson. Watley says, "Oh wow, I'm not even going to tell you what he's saying. We're going to move on now."
Tell
Okay,
me, man. Tell me, I'm ready. I'm about to.
he said he's mad that he can't grow a full beard. That was his last reply.
Oh man, he knows. They hit me where I hurt, dude. This is all I got. But hey, tell him we could slap the hair off his head and give me a beard. But looks like someone already beat us to it. You know what?
Oh man. Oh.
At least I got man. We could cut off my hair, give me a full beard, and still give him a head full of hair.
We are so far off the tracks right now that this is not.
See, this is why people don't believe in missions. This is why you put the missionary on, and everybody tries to get us off track.
Yeah, look at that. Look at that. I think that might be what's happening. Is that what's happening?
Is the devil at work?
Is Watley trying to derail your ministry? Is he dealing with that scarcity stuff we were just talking about?
Man, he has a problem with seeing other people's success. You see, that's what it is.
Oh, we're kidding. For everyone listening, we're kidding.
No, we're not. No, we're dead.
I am. I'm just the
I love
host,
that
man.
guy most of the time.
Oh, that's so funny. So let's talk about it, man. So you decided, you made the decision that you're going to go into missions. You're following this call. How in the world? Oh, he said, we love the ministry that Anna is doing. That's good. He's got you again. So if you are, how did you wind up choosing Kenya? Like what led to that decision? How'd that happen?
So I've always just known that Africa is the place. God revealed it to me the same night that He revealed my calling. That Africa was not just the only place that I would go to, because I fully believe that I'll touch down on every continent, spreading the name of Jesus Christ. But I knew that Africa was like my heart. Like I always felt like Africa was home. Even though like, I had never been there, man, it was crazy growing up. I literally missed people that I had never met. I longed so badly for a place that I had never been. I was literally homesick for a place that I've never been before. And me and she was my fiance at the time, we took time apart to pray about where God was going to send us full time. And when we came back together, I made her write it down on a piece of paper so that we wouldn't lie to each other. And we agreed, God has called us to Africa. So I went through the Church of God World Missions process, and whenever we got our number, they called and they said, where would you guys like to go? And we just said, we feel we're called to Africa, but send us where we're most needed. Wherever you guys need missionaries the most, send us there. And they said, we've got a place out in Kibera, Kenya. It's literally next door to the second largest slum in all of Africa. They've got 40 girls that they've rescued from child marriage. It's legal sex trade. They've rescued 40 girls, and then they've got over 100 students that come to the school every day, and there's one couple from South Carolina running the entire place by themselves. So we said, send us there, and March 1st we will leave America, and March 2nd we will touch down in Africa to start this journey of living in Africa. Man, we bought a one-way ticket. Like we're ready to go. One way we're going, and we're going to stay until God calls us back.
So you guys, when you get to Africa, like, have you been there at all? Do you have any expectation for what life is like? Like, where are you basing your view on what it's going to be? Where are you getting that picture?
So we were actually supposed to move in July, but we found out in February that my wife was pregnant. So we decided to have our first baby here. It was the first grandbaby on both sides, so I didn't really want to get murdered before I got to the mission field. So we pushed it back, but we left in, I believe, June, and we decided that we were going to go and visit Africa for 2 weeks. So we went and spent 2 weeks in the facility. I asked the director, L.J. Davis, I asked him not to vary anything off of his normal schedule because I wanted to see what life looked like. A lot of times, so I believe that whenever you go on short-term mission trips, you experience something that's not quite real. Now, I'm a firm believer in short-term mission trips. That's how I got my start, and I think that every pastor should be required to go on one just so that you experience that. But I think that you experience something that's not real because it would be like someone from another country coming in the week of youth camp, going and working youth camp, and then going back home, and that's his picture of what America looks like. It's just not real. So a lot of times when we go on short-term trips, the locals, they want to be good hosts, so we go to one mission trip, for instance, and like the kids are free for the entire week. They don't go to school or anything, and we just like spend an entire week playing soccer with the kids, and we do like birthday presents for them. Sometimes we do Christmas presents for them. Sometimes we do shopping, and we do work like on their facilities. But that's not what their everyday looks like. When we leave, they go back to everyday life. So I asked LJ Davis to show me what everyday life in Africa is going to look like. And man, it's another world. And I literally feel like time moves so much faster in Africa. The days feel like they're 3 hours long because you have 400 tasks to get done that need to get done. And at the end of the day, you're lucky if you got progress on two of them made. It's wild, man. It's a totally different culture, and it feels so different, but it feels exactly right. I have no doubt after we came back home from Africa, I had no doubt that that's what we were going to call home for the next several years of our life.
There, your role will be doing what?
So I'll be essentially LJ's assistant. He said for the first year that we're there, he just wants us to get acclimated to the culture because culture shock is a very real thing. And if you get there and you're just thrown to the wolves, you're going to burn out. It's just that simple. I mean, you're going to burn out. 7,000 missionaries come off the field every single year due to burnout. So my role to start with, he's talked about us maybe sharing some of the preaching to the kids, sharing that role. I'm sure that there'll be some stuff to do with the school that I can help with. I'd like to maybe get some Bible classes going possibly, but man, my heart is unreached people. Like I said, next door, literally our next door neighbor is the Kibera slum. Its population anywhere from 750,000 people to 1 million people. And whenever you're sitting out there at any time of the day, you can hear the Muslims with their speakers up, just blasting their prayers out for everyone to hear. Man, I'm gonna put up a sound system like Africa's never seen before, and I'm gonna compete with them every single time they start praying. I'm gonna pray just as loud, if not louder. I'm gonna blow them out the water. My goal in life is to see unreached people groups be a thing of the past. Man, that is my heart. To know that there is people in this world that not have heard of Jesus and they have chosen not to follow him. They have never had the opportunity to accept Jesus Christ in their heart. They've never even heard the name Jesus. I don't see how there's a minister in the entire world that doesn't break their heart and make them want to dedicate their entire being to seeing that problem fixed.
You're dealing with a whole different culture, a whole different way of doing church, a whole different way of doing life. What do you anticipate is going to be the most, like, what do you think is going to change the most about you when you get there? You have to be anticipating that some of what you know is going to fall away. What do you think is going to be different when you get back?
Man, every time that I go on a mission trip, you have to really check yourself because it's easy to come back and be mad at the church in America. It's easy to go and be frustrated with the messages that are preached on Sundays. It's easy to go and come back and be so fed up listening to complaints about the church being too hot or too cold or someone sitting in your seat or the music being too loud or the sermon not being good enough. To go to a place and experience people that have never heard Jesus Christ's name. I've literally witnessed to a man who had never heard scripture before. He knew about Jesus, but he had never heard scripture before. To go and experience that and listen to someone that has been raised in the church complain about useless things that make sense in the grand scheme of things will change you as a person into someone that you cannot be and stay effective in ministry.
That's interesting that you see that as something you'll have to deal with. I can imagine that would be a difficulty, trying to maintain some sort of respect for the way that we do ministry here, while also understanding the reality of things outside of this place and outside of this nation. I can imagine that would definitely be a struggle. Now, let me ask you this. We've had a great conversation about authenticity and about missions, and we'll probably talk more about the mission in the future. And I know you're kind of jumping into it in a way that you're going to have a lot more information about what's happening on the ground in the future when we do talk. But for folks that want to be able to follow you, to be able to send support to you, what social media can they follow you on, and how can they get any support over to you?
So I'm probably most active on our Facebook page. On my personal Facebook page right now, just Bryson Grizzle. Um, we also have a Facebook page is Fulfill Ministries. We have an Instagram page is Fulfill Ministries, and then of course my personal Instagram I'm very, very active on sharing our story. It's the Hippie Missionary. But our main focus when we get there of keeping people updated and how to know what's going on is our YouTube channel. It's Fluffy Noggin. That's an awesome name. Appreciate it. It's a good one. But it's Fluffy Noggin. And we're going to really try to put up posts on the weekly basis, maybe just depending on what life looks like when we get there, but very, very consistent where people can literally follow what's going on day to day with us. It'll probably be like a vlog type page, but I think that's going to be the easiest way for us to stay connected and keep our tribe connected with what we're doing. And as far as giving, the best way to give is just through Church of God World Missions. You can search our profile. It's under Bryson Grizzle, and there's a link right there to give, and everything is tax deductible.
All right, Bryson, thank you so much for coming on today. We've had quite a conversation. It's been fun. I feel like there's been some learning that we've done, and I feel like we can have some other great conversations in the future. I did want to introduce you to the audience and had a little opportunity to do that. So everybody that's seeing this live, stay tuned. This will hit in audio form probably in about 2 weeks. And for all of you that are listening to this in recording for the first time, I certainly hope that today has been great for you. Bryson, again, thank you for joining me today, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for having me.
And to everyone else that's joining us, I hope that today has been more than a conversation for you.
Thanks again for being part of More Than a Conversation today. If you'd like more content like this, check out my blog at www.pastorconley.com. That's PastorConley.com. Again, that's PastorConley.com. I'd also love to see you join us in worship at Garden Sanctuary. If you're ever in Rock Hill, South Carolina, or the greater Charlotte area, we'd love to have you stop by and worship with us. Check us out at www.gardensanctuary.org. That's gardensanctuary.org. Until next time, I hope this has been more than a conversation.